Slime, glorious slime, and vomit. Welcome to the next video in the mini-series all about the Army Painter Fanatic Effects paints. And as you guessed it, I'm hyped up for this one. We are testing out the new Oozing Vomit, Disgusting Slime, and comparing the latter to the old version. At first glance, the Vomit paint has a nice thick consistency to it, and a lovely vomity colour. Whilst the Disgusting Slime is a super bright, neon-like highlighter, but also much thinner. I'm intrigued by this colour, as the old slime had a more snotty look to it. And let's face it, they are all putrid colours. I love it. And of course, I'm going to use these paints on my freshly painted Nurgle miniatures. So let's get testing and see what these paints can do. First off, and going into kid mode, I wanted to see what these would look like if you were to do a pool of slime. And I created a muddy ring on top of these bases to hold the paint in, as this is the same basing material that I've used for my Nurgle boys. And let the mud texture fully dry. Oozing Vomit was first up, and a loaded brush of this gunk was added to the test base. As the paint is thick, I added about a 2mm layer into the gap. This is such a nice greeny brown colour. Truly icky. Next up was the two Disgusting Slime paints. The Fanatic effect is really bright and reflective. I'm thinking this could be useful for something like a radioactive or nuclear waste. Whilst the old slime paint is more of a yellowy green, and I would say this would still fit in quite nicely with the new range. Because of how thick the paints are, I wanted to have some fun and create a two-tone sludgy looking base. And Oozing Vomit was the first colour of choice to create the pool. And then a blob of the two Disgusting Slimes were added to the different bases. This was then stirred around and created a green oozy sludge. Afterwards, all of the bases that we have painted so far were put to one side and left to dry. In the meantime, I tested the paints out on the Nurgle miniatures. Some slimy drips were added to the fleshy boils and open wounds with a detail brush. I'm liking the neon green colour to the new Fanatic paint. However, I did notice that once dry, the colour had completely gone, and all that was left was a faint green colour. That's a bit disappointing. Another fun way to paint slime onto a miniature is to create an icky, sticky, stringy effect, and yoo-hoo glue is amazing for this. It starts to solidify into a thick gel fairly quickly, but you can still stretch it out like you can see here to make a cool effect. I used a paperclip to attach a dribble of slimy snot coming from his proboscis to the tuft of grass underneath. The nice thing with this glue is that you can paint on it straight away. So to make this even more disgusting looking, some Oozing Vomit covered the majority of this newly formed dribble. And a highlight of the old Disgusting Slime was added to pick out the edges. Someone get this guy a tissue, for goodness sake! And I still had a bit of glue left over. So I added a tiny dribble coming from Petunia's mouth here, and then added a bright neon green Disgusting Slime. After a couple of hours, our test bases are completely dry with some mixed results. The Oozing Vomit lost all of its volume and retracted all the way to the base bottom, but the colour is still the same. However, that was not the case for the new Disgusting Slime. It completely lost its neon green colour and dried as a darker green, just like our Nurgle earlier on. And our paint mix didn't fare any better, it just dried with a drab green colour. Lastly, the old Disgusting Slime kept its colour and dried the same as when we painted it on, keeping its yellowishy green finish. And the two-tone slimy base dried exactly as we left it a couple of hours ago in terms of colour. However, the volume of liquid again just completely dissipated. Not quite what I want for my Nurgle. Which got me to this stage. Using the barrel that we had from our previous rust video, check it out if you haven't seen it, this was added to a larger base with the same texture we used earlier. To create a pool of liquid that I'm looking for, some 𝐒𝐻 still water is going to be the main substance, and we will use the paints for the colour. A mix of this 𝐒𝐻 water and some oozing vomit was added onto the palette and stirred around. Note, make sure that you stir it much slower than what I have done here to reduce the amount of bubbles, as you can see, as I was way too eager to experiment with this base. This mixture was then slopped on to create the initial pool, and I went back in to get rid of any unwanted bubbles with an airbrush needle. I'm going to give this disgusting slime one more chance to show its quality, just like 𝘊𝑪𝑗𝑠. I'm hoping that by mixing it in with the 𝐒𝐻 water effect, that this awesome bright radioactive colour won't completely disappear like before. I just added a few wibbly wobbly lines with a paperclip to create some sort of discharge coming out of the barrel. This was then placed to one side and dry for an hour. Coming back to it, I decided I wanted the pool to be a bit more gross looking, so I added another layer of the 𝐒𝐻 water and vomit, and then mixed in some old, disgusting slime. The idea that I had in my head is when soya milk curdles with coffee. I'm not making that mistake again by buying that rubbish milk, and you get that cool, swishy look. Not letting this layer dry, a final layer of the 𝐒𝐻 and vomit was used on top. This also feathered out the harsh lines from the previous layer, but it also added some extra depth to give that utterly gunky, slimy look, and left to dry. That's the method I used for the Nurgle Plague Drone base. Just playing around with the layers of paint for the colour and using the 𝐒𝐻 water mix to keep the volume of liquid. It's all about experimenting with these paints and just having fun. So my question of the Nurgle day is, what projects would you use these paints on? Well, coming back to our now dry barrel base, the new Fnatic Disgusting Slime has once again lost all of its awesome colour. I'm not going to be negative, I'm just going to be silently disappointed. There we go. So to fix this, I came back with some rainforest paint to get that radioactive look back. I gotta say that the new oozing vomit and the old disgusting slime is a pretty good combination. But which one of these three paints is your favourite from today? And next time we will be looking at oil and verdigris in our effects series. Have a slimy day, everyone!